Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we have Ryan from Throw the Fight.
I remember your home is where I belong, where I can live, where I should stay. My home always changing. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Okay, I want to go into some history on how you started playing guitar, what age, and what made you start.
Yeah, for sure. I started when I was about 11 or 12 years old, really, really young. My dad got me into Sabbath and Metallica and a lot of that stuff. Like prior to that, I was listening to, I wasn't even into rock and metal music at all. I was listening to, I was in junior high at the time. It was probably pop music, whatever was on the radio at that time. And my dad's like, here, you should, let's check out Iron Man. And once I heard Iron Man, like that was it for me. So I started playing pretty much right away, and I've been playing ever since. And my brother is our drummer, so Jeff and I have been jamming, in our parents' basement since we were little kids.
Did you take lessons or were you kind of like self-taught?
I took lessons for about the first 5 years, and then after that, I kind of lost interest with lessons, and then I just kind of taught myself, for the most part after that.
Would you say your first song you learned was Iron Man?
It definitely was. It was Iron Man, and it was pretty much the Metallica's Black Album front to back.
How did you Throw the Fight? It was like you and your brother that formed the band together.
No, it was me. I'm the only original member at this point, but Throw the Fight didn't start until years later when I was in college. I think we started in 2003, so I was probably my early 20s at that point. Jeff was not an original member. He didn't come into the band until after we had, started. I think we had dropped our first record at that point, but that wasn't until, 4 or 5 years after the band had already formed. We'd gone through a handful of lineup changes early on, just recording really, really terrible demos and had playing house parties and bars pretty much anywhere we could possibly, show up and play to people. So that was kind of how we started. We started doing covers. Like you pretty much could have called us a Drive-Thru Records cover band at the time. We were doing like Finch and Newfound Glory and all that stuff. And kind of mixing in our originals, as we went on, and then we just phased out the covers and started doing it that way. But yeah, we kind of started, playing the bar circuit in Menominee, Wisconsin, and the Minneapolis area.
And who would you say is your influences as far as guitar?
There's so many. Like I said early on, it was probably Metallica and Sabbath. After that, I got into a lot of like post-hardcore music. Story of the Year is probably like my all-time favorite band. It was Story of the Year, like Killswitch Engage, Rise Against. All of those bands have been huge influences. But on the flip side, I had a phase where I was getting into like a lot of blues music, like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and then a lot of punk music too. Like MXPX and things like that. Once I started getting into MXPX and bands like Face to Face and Less Than Jake and stuff like that, it kind of shifted my mindset a little bit. It got to be more about songwriting for me and melody, and I think that's kind of like what struck a chord for me a little bit. I'm more drawn to melody and things like that versus like how many notes can you fit into this guitar solo and play as fast as you can. So that's kind of where my head's started shifting in terms of songwriting, which was probably, I don't know, maybe I was in my late teens, early 20s at that point. But yeah, a lot of varied bands, a lot of anything again, anything throughout the rock and metal and punk spectrum. I'm all about it.
I read an article about how to survive an indie uh, musician, how to survive as an indie musician, and you were talking about how you formed your business model for your band on how to reach as many fans as possible. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a lot of things that go into it, right? It's not a one size fits all thing. I mean, it's anything from touring. If you're a rock band, you got to play live. That's always going to be your best bet in terms of getting in front of people. But for us, we came up in the MySpace days. So we started building a following online through MySpace and Pure Volume and sites like that. Um, and that was kind of how we connected with people. We weren't like a full-time touring act. We weren't on the road all the time. We were playing quite a bit, but we were, our strategy was always to work the web and try and use social media as tools to get people off of social media onto our assets that we actually own, like our email list and our website and stuff like that. So really it was, the whole strategy was just using the tools available at the time, and leveraging them as much as possible to just kind of like reach out to people and have those conversations and build a connection that way. And we still do it to this day. We spend a significant amount of time just online reaching out to people and having those conversations, behind the scenes.
What have you done over the past year with the lockdown? Were you able to play out at all?
No,
No.
no. I mean, that was not even an option for pretty much anybody. We played our first show last week, and that was our first show in the last year and a half. So it's been a while. It's definitely been a while. But we've been staying busy. We've been doing a lot of songwriting, a lot of recording. We've put out nearly 20 tracks since 2019. So I was talking to the guys yesterday, and we were saying how it's been crazy that nearly a third of our catalog has been released within the last 2 years. So for us at this point, we're really trying to focus on singles and music videos. Putting out a single and a video, and then having a new body of music like a month or two after that, and then more music a month or two after that, versus like trying to record albums and things like that, just because people consume music so fast these days, and the rate of consumption is just, it's so quick. The second you drop something, that everyone's like, when's the next song coming out? And I fucking hate that shit. I absolutely hate that stuff. So because it's just like no one sees how much time and energy goes into it, on the back end, but it's incredibly draining when you've got a large body of material. So we found that just, we're just able to pump out more music if we can just focus on fewer songs and releasing them at a faster clip. And that's been working well for us. So that's kind of what we've been doing in during lockdown, is just working in the studio. That's really the only thing that we can control and have any say over.
Always think before you speak. Watch for the fallout. Lost in the eyes of the storm. See the future in the palm of your hands. Light-headed, not part of the plan. The sky at night goes black.
Yeah, that's like one of the questions I was going to ask you. You released Settle Your Sins in August of 2020, but you weren't able to tour behind it. That I'm sure that was really weird.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that album got pushed back a couple times because it was supposed to have been out a while ago, and once the pandemic hit, we put it on hold, thinking that touring was going to resume, hoping that it was going to resume, a few months down the road, maybe 6 months down the road. And then when that ended up not being the case, you kind of get into like, it is what it is mentality, and it just we just put it out anyways. And you tour on it when you can, and yeah, not now we've actually got copies that we can sell live and stuff like that, but it's been for the most part a digital release.
The way I came across your band was I found the song Home. I think you had like a ad up on Facebook. You were promoting that album, and um, that's from the album Inside Out. And it's like 4 acoustic songs that you wrote that you already had from previous albums, but you kind of like rearranged and stuff. Um, how did the fans respond to that? Being it was like acoustic, and you guys are so hard and heavy when you're playing.
It was well received. People seemed to dig it, and for us, we had never really done any acoustic songs. I mean, we've done like maybe a couple acoustic tracks on old albums over the years, but we had never really done like a full acoustic project. So, and yeah, that was another lockdown experiment, if you if you want to call it that. It was we were just like, hey, we've never done an acoustic EP. Let's try it out and see how it goes. And it was a good process. It came together really quick just because the songs were already written, for the most part. So it wasn't really, we didn't really spend a lot of time like having to write material or anything like that. It was more or less just kind of rearranging the stuff to fit in an acoustic format.
You just released the Fallout in June. Is there plans for an album that includes that song, or you're just planning on releasing singles from now on?
Yeah, for the short term. I mean, there's definitely going to be another album down the road for sure. Um, but yeah, the Fallout is just a standalone single. We've got another single that we're wrapping up right now, so that will be released hopefully in the next month or so. And we'll have another video to go along with that. And then we're just kind of talking to a handful of other producers about doing some larger projects. Maybe not a whole record, but we're talking about going out with a few people and maybe doing like another EP. Actually, a couple EPs. So really, we're just trying to work with as many producers and songwriters as we possibly can right now.
Any plans for a tour in the future?
Hopefully. Yeah, for sure. I mean, now that stuff is starting to open back up. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely starting to play. I mean, we're starting to book shows and things like that, and dates are getting announced and put on the calendar. So that's great to see. We're hopefully going to be going over to Europe and at the end of next year. But yeah, I mean, it's we're definitely always looking for tour opportunities and regional kind of like weekend warrior type runs and stuff like that. We're always doing that stuff. So between that stuff and staying busy in the studio and on top of our jobs and our careers and everything like that and our families, it pretty much keeps us pretty busy.
What state are you based out of right now?
Minnesota.
As far as new music out there, is there anything you're currently listening to?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a great question. The new Atreyu record, I'm loving that. That's a great album. I'm always listening to Upon a Burning Body. Like their new stuff is really great too. Machine Gun Kelly, like his new album is amazing. I love that stuff. I'm trying to think what else. I'm a big Hobson fan too. Like I love pretty much everything that Hobson puts out. I'm always listening to his stuff. But I think for right now, like my regular rotation is Hobson, Upon a Burning Body, Story of the Year, Dragged Under. That's another like newer up and coming band that are really really awesome. So that's kind of like and Atreyu. That's like my go tos right now, at least for like the last month.
You guys did a cover of Shawn Mendes, Treat You Better. How did that come about? Did one of you guys say, hey, let's try this out and maybe rock it out, or what?
That's exactly how it came about. That's exactly it. That's the whole story right there. I have nothing to add to that. That's pretty much it,
Do you guys kind of like throw that in every once in a while at a show, or what?
No, we don't really play that one live. Yeah, we've only done two covers, and they're some of our more popular songs. But yeah, we're probably going to do some more coming up down the road here too. We've talked about putting out like a covers EP type thing, so that might happen too. But no definitive plans at this point.
Your video for Misery, you shot it all on phone, being we had to lock down, and like it was shot in April, and you guys were cracking me up with the toilet paper and the kids' drums and stuff on that. did did you all plan that out, or was that just spur of the moment thing?
A lot of it was, yeah. We loosely planned it out, and a lot of it was just it just kind of just happened. It's the kids are very unpredictable, so we just kind of worked it in wherever we could. But yeah, I mean, at the time, like we were in full lockdown mode, so we couldn't even get together or anything at that point, and we just said, well, fuck it, we've got our phones, let's shoot what we can and put a treatment together and just do it with our phones and put it together, just kind of DIY style, and it turned out pretty well, I think.
How can we get a hold of you guys? Facebook, Twitter.
Throwthefight.com, and we're pretty much everywhere at Throw the Fight.
That's pretty much all I have left. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, man, I just wanted to say thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This is super nice of you.